Coming up on Network Africa, airstrike debris hits a lorry in Tigray, with the spokesperson for the rebel group tagging it an outrageous crime. Central African Republic Seleka militia leader pleads not guilty to charges of war crimes at the International Criminal Court. Plus, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says rolling power cuts being experienced in the country will not end soon. Hello and welcome to the program. This week, I'm Layo Olarinde. Begin in Ethiopia, where debris from a drone strike in the Tigray region hit a lorry carrying humanitarian aid. Spokesperson for the World Food Programme says flying debris from the strike injured a driver contracted by the WFP and caused major damage to the fleet truck. The lorry was delivering food to internally displaced people in Tigray. Well, according to Getachew Reda, the spokesperson for the TPLF group, he termed the incident an outrageous crime. Well, several previous airstrikes have been reported by the Tigray rebels since fresh confrontations erupted in August, which have not been acknowledged by federal authorities. In the meantime, Demeke Mekonnen, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs for Ethiopia, spoken to world leaders saying climate disaster and its insufferable impacts are preventable. He was speaking at the high-level debate of the UN General Assembly, which took place in New York over the weekend. The Deputy Prime Minister also made an urgent call to all states to translate rhetoric into action, adding that for the past 4 years, Ethiopia has made significant progress in its socio-economic development and democratization.
Insufferable impacts are preventable. I therefore make an urgent call to all states gathered here to translate rhetoric into action. We must realize our climate finance commitments to build resilience and mitigate impact. We should act to meet our emission reduction targets. This requires focused coordination, non-politicization, avoidance of securitization, and good faith cooperation among all stakeholders. We thus call for support to our agenda for peace, reconciliation, and reconstruction. We also urge respect for and support to the EU-led peace process. Any other approach, including the politicization of human rights and unilateral coercive measures, will not yield any positive outcome. I reiterate Ethiopia's commitment to equity and cooperation in the use of transboundary rivers and shared prosperity with all riparian countries. We will continue in good faith the trilateral negotiation under the auspices of the African Union to reach a mutually acceptable outcome. Africa has no permanent seats at the UN Security Council. Our quest for African solutions to African problems is yet to be given the respect and support it deserves. We believe these considerations underpin the credibility of the Council in the continent. African problems are sustainably addressed when approached in the true context of the region and take full account of the strategic interests and aspirations of the countries concerned. It is only when we do this and uphold regional solutions we could start reducing the proliferation and overextended study of African issues in the UN Security Council.
Meanwhile, the acting Prime Minister of the Republic of Mali, Abdoulaye Maiga, says it is extremely important that MINUSMA keeps supporting Mali's quest for stability. He adds that almost 10 years after its establishment, the objectives for which the United Nations multidimensional integrated stabilization mission in Mali was deployed in the country has not been achieved.
Almost 10 years after its establishment, the objective for which MINUSMA was deployed in Mali has not been achieved, and this despite the numerous resolutions of the Security Council. That is why the government of Mali reiterates its request, many times expressed, for a paradigm shift, an adaptation of MINUSMA to the environment in which it is deployed and better coordination with the Malian authorities. From this perspective, it is extremely important that MINUSMA keeps supporting Mali's quest for stability. It is extremely important that MINUSMA keeps supporting Mali's quest for stability.
In Uganda, the number of suspected Ebola infections continues to rise in the country, and this is coming as medical interns at the Mundebe hospital have gone on strike. Well, the medics accuse the government of not providing them with appropriate safety kits, risk allowances, and health insurance. The 6 intern medical workers are said to have been exposed to the virus and are currently in isolation, awaiting laboratory results. The Health Ministry says there have been 34 suspected cases and it believes 21 deaths are probably caused by the Ebola virus. All the health teams continue to trace any person that may have come in contact with the virus. Well, joining us now is Halima Atumani, VOA correspondent in Kampala, Uganda. Hello, Halima. Thank you for speaking to us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, Ebola cases keep rising, and according to the Health Ministry, it is spreading to neighboring districts. To give us more details on this.
Well, at the moment, the cases that we've so far had have not gone beyond Mubende district. The only suspected district, which is Chegegwa, that is on the southwestern part of the country where I just was recently. The wire reports that there was a probability that there is a case among some officials working within the refugee settlements. Thank God that has not been confirmed. But right now, very true, the cases are increasing as we speak. They have been, this is as of September 25th. This was yesterday. 36 cumulative Ebola cases, including 18 confirmed and 18 probable cases. So the cumulative deaths stand at 23, 5 confirmed deaths and 18 probable deaths. The reason why they keep saying probable deaths is because by the time they came to confirm that it was Ebola, a number of people had already died in these particular villages and communities. 2 particular communities that are being mentioned in small villages. There's a village called Mududu. This is again still in Mubende district. I think this is where we have about 18 probable deaths that are being reported. Reason being the first index case was a man, a 24-year-old man who died, and they later found out, I think the task force that was sent to investigate what happened, how the cases came about, they came to realize that the family of this young man, about 6 people had died before he was taken to hospital and was being diagnosed with diarrhea and pneumonia. It was only later that they came to discover that it was actually a case of Ebola. So in the last 24 hours, what we are aware of is that there are so far 2 new confirmed cases and 2 new deaths. So that is where we stand. 36 cumulative Ebola cases in the country.
Well, Ebola, as we know, it is a dangerous disease. I mean, the outbreak here in West Africa, according to WHO, was the world's deadliest till date. And the WHO has also declared an international health emergency. So what is Uganda's, what's the government's efforts in curbing this as quickly as possible, especially now that, you know, medical workers at the Mudembe hospital have gone on strike?
I mean, Mubende hospital. I think at this moment, the government is doing a lot of risk communication, community engagement. They've sent task forces, teams that are, you know, treating contact tracing, just to find out what happened, which families have been most affected. Because I think last week we saw a member of parliament from Mubende who says they've not just buried 6 people, it's over 25 people who've been buried. So then that brings us to the question, did these people actually die of Ebola? So these are some of the things and the questions that the Ministry of Health now needs to go back down and investigate, which they are doing, to figure out if all these cases were actually Ebola cases. So there's a lot of community awareness at the moment. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, we've had, I think, a strike by health workers for a period of about 3 months. It had gone down quietly because people thought, things have gone back to normal. Just recently, when the minister went to Mbende health conference hall, when she was speaking to the health workers in the district, they actually raised the issues of, there's no funding, there's no money, to buy for them protective gear. There was no money to pay interns. There was no money for everything. And the minister said, stop complaining about money. But, at the end of the day, while the minister will say, we'll bring the money tomorrow, if the interns and the health workers are not seeing the money, then, of course, at the end of the day, it is the community to suffer.
All right, let's talk about the people now. How are they reacting? And most importantly, how are they keeping safe?
People are scared. People are very, very scared. Not just in Uganda, even in Kampala, we had a suspected case in one of our small suburbs called Kansanga. And because of that, people in Kampala, were sending messages, be careful. So people are sharing messages of, how to protect yourself. But, when you get, unfortunately, I think for many people, they only think that when someone has Ebola, you probably see immediately their eyes bleeding, their nose bleeding, or their mouth, because, blood comes from every part of your body almost. And I think this is some of the things that the ministry needs to actually create awareness of, and say, by the time you see someone bleeding through their eyes or their ears, then it has reached a stage of no return. So I think there's still a lot for the Ministry of Health to do. And for now, the communities or just locals, Ugandans just need to take charge and protect themselves.
All right, then. Thank you so much. The VOA's correspondent, Halima Atumani in Uganda.
Thank you.
Well, Somalia has confirmed that Turkish drones have joined the ongoing military offensive against the Al-Qaeda-allied Al-Shabaab militants. The Interior Minister, Ahmed Mualim Fiki, says the Turkish-owned surveillance and combat drones provided air support for the Somali army. Well, in recent weeks, the Somali government forces and armed clans in central Hiran and Galgaduud regions have dislodged Al-Shabaab from some areas. The state media reports that the army has also expanded the offensive against Al-Shabaab in central Somalia to parts of the southwestern Gedo region, where the militants hold some territory. Well, Turkey is among the countries that have been supporting the Somali government. A suspected leader of the Seleka militia groups in the Central African Republic, Mohamed Said Abdelkani, has pleaded not guilty to charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity at the opening of his trial at the International Criminal Court. Well, he has been accused of being in charge of a police compound in the capital Bangui back in 2013, where supporters of the deposed President Francois Bozize were brutally tortured.
For 10 horrendous months, the Seleka ruled Bangui. To say they governed would be an abuse of the English language. They ruled by diktat, by fear, by terror. And they targeted individuals that they perceived as being on the other side. Not because they were, not because they were combatants, but simply because they believed they were on the side of former President Bozize. And Mr. Said was in charge of the location that we will zoom in and focus on in the course of this trial, the OCRB. Now, the prosecution alleged that Mr. Said was not a passive spectator, not simply somebody who failed to prevent and repress and punish, but he actively hunted down civilians himself and brought them to the OCRB, knowing exactly what he had planned for them, what nightmare awaited them under his control and custody. With your leave, He was a man of great power. How unfortunate it is for the people of the Central African Republic. How unfortunate it is for Mr. Said that he didn't use that authority, that power, properly and humanely, but instead abused his own people. P3056, that they were forced to pay what was for them.
Still ahead on the program. Thousands of people descend on Ghana's historic Black Star Square in Accra for the Global Citizens Festival. Details in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says that rolling power cuts being experienced in the country will not be ending anytime soon, but things are changing, although slowly. Mr. Ramaphosa made this known in his weekly newsletter that progress is being made in the implementation of the additional actions that were announced in July, even though the effects may not be immediately felt. Well, the country is enduring acute energy shortages, with its state energy provider, Eskom, suffering from a lack of investment amid allegations of corruption. Coal is used to generate 80% of South African electricity, but a new deal signed last week will increase the country's renewable energy output by 10% through private investment in wind and solar projects. All these are not expected to come online until 2024. Still in South Africa, 5 suspects have appeared before the Soweto Magistrate Court in connection with a mass shooting incident which left about 16 people dead and 8 others wounded in July. One of the suspects arrested has been leading the investigating police to others as far-flung as Lesotho. Well, they face a 19-count charge, including murder, attempted murder, and defeating the ends of justice. The case has been adjourned till the 18th of October.
The suspects so far are 2 South Africans and 3 Lesotho nationals. The Orlando Magistrates Court was filled to capacity, with some victims' family members unable to enter to witness proceedings. The magistrate, Anthony Leroux, ordered that neither the faces of the 5 suspects nor their legal representatives could be filmed.
Please don't show the faces either. Nothing should have been done the way it's asking for.
Not long after, the State Council requested a 4-week postponement, given what he calls the complexity of the case, as more investigations are still required. Judge Leroux granted a postponement to the 18th of October, and suspects are to remain in custody. Spokesperson for the National Prosecuting Authority, Pindim Jonondwane, gave details of the charges and ongoing investigations.
The suspects before court are charged with 19 counts of murder, including the 16 murders that happened in Nomzamo Tavern. And the 3 other murder cases emanate from other dockets that were combined with the Nomzamo one. We've got about 4 cases from Orlando subs and 2 from Cliptown subs, which are then all combined into one docket to formulate charges that they've appeared for, which is 19 charges of murder and multiple counts of attempted murder. I can't remember the exact number, robbery with aggravating circumstances and defeating the ends of justice.
Can you confirm the nationalities of the accused?
2 of the accused are South African nationals and the 3 other are Lesotho nationals. At this stage, we do suspect that it is a syndicate that wanted to control your mining, your abandoned mines, your dumping sites, and the cable theft syndicate. But for now, it's just our suspicion. Investigations, as they progress, will be able to have more answers.
It was here at the Mdlalose's Tavern in Nomzamo Park, Soweto, that AK-47 wielding gunmen opened fire on patrons in the early hours of a Sunday morning in July, killing 16 people and seriously wounding others. This was one incident among 4 that week in South Africa. As investigations continue, a grieving community and family members eagerly await answers. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
Or over the weekend, Ghana played host to Global Citizens Festival on the 24th of September. Accra hosted the sister event to Global Citizens' annual New York City Festival at the iconic Black Star Square. Well, the Global Citizens Festival is part of a movement to end extreme poverty by contributing to charity acts on their website, including watching videos and signing petitions. Fans can get free tickets to the festival.
Through a sweltering afternoon into a clear sky night, some 20,000 people descended on Ghana's historic Black Star Square in Accra to dance, cheer, and sing along to songs performed by some of their favorite stars. The Accra leg of Global Citizens Annual Music Festival, held simultaneously with another concert in New York City, wasn't your average show. Attendees earned their tickets by cleaning beaches, distributing online petitions, or participating in other forms of activism benefiting women, girls, and the environment. Michael, an 18-year-old student who earned his spot by contributing to a girls' education charity, said it's fun to give back.
I think Ghanaians are very charitable people. We love causes that end up in charity. We give, and it's fun. It's fun. It's not always about giving to Africa. Africa can give and we can have fun too.
Michael Sheldrick, Global Citizens co-founder, said Ghana is a symbol of what Africa can achieve.
Ending poverty is not about charity. As is written on the arch, the independent arch here at Black Star Square, it's about justice, it's about equality, and it's about partnership. And together we can end extreme poverty. And I think Ghana symbolizes so much of what's achievable. It's always led the way from when it first won independence 65 years ago, but it is extending a hand here. It's saying, listen, we as a community are willing to step up, but we're looking for partnership, not token acts of charity.
Such sentiments were echoed on and off the red carpet, with festival attendees and celebrities urging others to reconsider their views of Africa. Daniel Guraya, a star of the 2018 movie Black Panther, called on people to consider the power and potential of African women. South African actress Nomzambo Mbata had a simple message: Africans are economic assets, not economic burdens.
I think for the longest time, what the African continent has always been portrayed as is that we are economic burdens, but we're actually economic assets. Our culture is the current currency that is selling around the world, but most importantly, Africa's richest resources is not just the natural resources, it's its people. And if we continue to invest in it, we see how far it can really go.
Now in its 10th year, organizers of the festival expect to see more than $800 million committed to those causes from various countries and organizations. It also spurred the establishment of an Africa Prosperity Fund, a $1 billion development funding pledge compiled solely by African governments and launched jointly by the governments of Ghana and South Africa.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.